I want to call the special meeting. Oh, Brian's here. Okay, we can start. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Lori is here somewhere, but
My mom's home.
She's doing much better.
That's great.
She wants to drive now.
She wants to be here.
Yeah, I know. I forgot to tell her about this meeting.
Oh.
It's a special meeting.
well, you're her special son.
One of her special sons.
I had to hear all about this from Ron.
What?
You're the other second person who said, yeah, Kel didn't say anything.
About what?
About your mom.
She's doing better.
Here's Lori, so you can start.
Okay.
I fell asleep at the ninth inning last night. I missed the whole comeback. Yeah.
Okay, the special meeting of the Park District of Highland Park is called to order at 7:04 p.m. Kathy, can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Bernstein?
Here.
Commissioner Grossberg?
Here.
Commissioner Flores-Weisskopf? Here. Vice President Runtenberg?
Here.
President Kaplan?
I am here as well. Okay, as we always do, it's open to the public to address the board. Do either of you want to address us tonight? You sure? It's exciting stuff.
I would be happy to.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Stolberg, would you like to address the board tonight?
Not at all.
Okay, we are, I know. We are here to discuss the purchase of the country club and the related entities and the leases and other agreements involved. By way of a quick history, we've been talking to the City of Highland Park for the purchase of the country club property in some fashion and lease agreements for the remainder of the property for about a year and a half now. We have 4 agreements that Commissioner Bernstein, Commissioner Ruttenberg, and I have worked on for hours at end, and we think it's time that we go through them on camera, in public, and talk about the issues that are remaining so that we can resolve them and move forward with this deal. What I'd like the board to do is not go back to other revisions, other drafts that we talked about, but let's just move forward. Liza?
So, I have hard copies for everyone of the agreements that, this is the most recent agreement, and for those of you, I mean, you all know that these, the lease and the subsequent transfer agreement have been, there's been a lot of changes, and what you have in front of you now are the changes that reflect city comments, and changes that were made by the city attorney that effective last Friday. And then in the margin of these comments, you will see comments that we received from the city after they met Monday night. All the new changes that were made by our attorney, or the additions, I should say, are in bright green. So everything, in terms of going through the agreements, just so that everyone knows, the red changes came from the city last Friday that you had seen a copy of, and then the green, the bright green, are the result of incorporating comments from the city meeting that are in the margin, and Rob will be able to elaborate on some of that.
I just want to point out that I had an opportunity to read the stuff, the agreements you sent around on Friday.
Okay.
The ones you sent around this afternoon, I did not have an opportunity to do. I know that, I understand the green are the changes, so I'll do the best to try to try to, to deal with that. But again, they came too late for me today.
Well,
to read
yeah,
it.
no, and we won't even get into the history of how we got to where we are today.
Okay.
But we're there, and that's
Okay.
what
I just
matters.
So,
Okay.
what you got him, Kel?
Yeah. So
Okay, what I'd like to do is start with the tree nursery agreement. And we will go through it,
Thank you.
calling it out page by page. And I'm looking for comments on the comments that are here, or if you have any new comments on the material that aren't on the copies. Fair?
Yes. Let's get this out.
Tree nursery, tree nursery. Lease agreement by and between the City of Highland Park.
Got it. Thank you, sorry.
You got it?
I got it.
Okay. Agreement 1, page 1.
I have a change in the whereas. It says subsequent to the agreement. It's the first whereas, it should be pursuant to.
Okay.
And then the rest of the paragraph got cut off after the words back to the city. It should talk about the nursery property.
Rob, is this, check out my glasses.
Pursuant to the agreement of the parties for the city to sell, and what goes where, Barney, what's that?
Well, if you read it, it says, whereas subsequent to the
Yeah,
agreement.
yeah.
And then it goes, the district shall lease back to the city, and it ends there.
Yes, okay.
It was just,
So we need to put it back, some of it back in.
Yeah, okay, got it.
I'm pretty sure that was Lil in my edits today.
Okay.
Good catch, Barney.
makes good.
Page 2. Hearing nothing, I'll go to page 3.
My only comment is, where in the agreement does it provide that the Park District has access to the area?
It's later in the agreement.
Okay.
So I'm on page 3, and
I have actually an issue on page 3, 4A. Within 90 days following the date of closing, the terms and conditions of the city's use of the nursery property shall be set forth in a document to be prepared by the staffs for the district and the city. If we could do it beforehand, I would suggest we do it beforehand. If we're gonna sign an agreement, we need to know all the terms. And what happens if the two staffs can't agree?
and what happens when it comes to us for approval?
So if you could get together with whoever from the two entities and come up with that portion, I think that'd be a good idea.
I don't think it should be very complicated. The uses for a tree,
Well, I
tree
understand that.
nursery.
But,
So-
but we've argued about sillier.
I mean, it seems like it's pretty obvious what the use is going to be, so I think we should be
I
able to
think
work
that
that out.
this agreement helps to make the, whatever we need to do
I think
with
it's all in the
city
agreement.
simpler.
Yeah.
I do too.
All right, so we've
Okay.
all agreed that it will
Yeah.
be part and parcel, that it will be one of the documents that we'll have when we execute everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm fine
Page
with that.
4.
Okay,
in
terms and
paragraph
conditions-
D.
Cal, if you look at paragraph D, the first line talks about part of the access.
Okay, B, is it 4B?
Or D.
Oh,
D
4D?
as in
Oh,
David.
4D.
Or dummy.
On camera, I'll go with David.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, well, it says the city shall cooperate with the district to provide, and I don't think that's what we want to say. I think we want to say that as part of the agreement, there will be provision established for the access. I don't want to say they'll cooperate, there will be access through the public services.
How about instead shall cooperate, the city shall provide the district with vehicle
Yeah,
or,
that's the word I put in.
yeah,
That's fine.
okay.
Page
Oh,
4,
well, let's just watch how sausage is made.
nothing, good. Page 5.
On page 5 in section 7, I'd like to make it clear that we are not providing any utility services. If there are any, the city's going to have to bring them in.
Oh, all right, that's fine.
Yeah, if they want to irrigate it or something like that. Want to
Whatever.
put some sprinklers, I got it. Cool.
Page 6.
Oh, I'm still on page 5.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not comfortable with the fact that if we have access to the nursery property, we have to provide notice in advance. This is sort of going to be incorporated into the preserve. And so my question is, why do we have to give notice in advance?
Well, I think the area that we're going to be accessing it from, that's where, for example, that pace buses are parked.
No, this is the nursery property.
But that we access it through the city's property, which is the Public Works
You know, you
building.
can walk across the preserve and get to it. This-
Barney, I think that this is in the event, if they are having a delivery or if they're planting some of the trees, they're not gonna want a program interfering with what they're doing.
Okay, fine.
Let me just read the
understand.
paragraph.
Okay, fine. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Bill, what did you want to-
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Any more on page 5? Page 6.
I question what the alterations are. This is almost contemplating somebody could build a building there, and it's a tree nursery, so they're
Well,
really.
It says consistent with the terms, that if the use is, that it's going to be used as a nursery, so,
Well,
That-
but you could have an indoor facility at the nursery. Could. But it,
okay, well, I think the likelihood
Well,
is, in which consent shall not be unreasonably withheld. So if they're building something that is a lot of impervious surface, that could be a reason we can withhold consent.
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, page 7. Talks about termination, really.
And this is new, right?
Yeah, this
Green is
comes from
new.
a comment that Barney raised, but makes some sense that if, for whatever reason, the city stops using the nursery as a nursery, then the lease should cease.
It's like an abandonment provision?
Yeah, it's consistent with a provision in one of the other
I think it's in lot
agreements
3.
that says that if we stop using a facility as the facility, for its intended use for a period of time, that that agreement will also terminate.
So my suggestion,
No.
I get the point, you see this in leases common, there's an abandonment provision going dark. Instead of 12 months, maybe give them 24 months because it's 2 seasons then. I mean,
Give me a number, I picked it out of
yeah.
thin
I
air.
like 12 months.
Well, I'll see what the city has to say. I'm okay with 24. Give them 2
As long as
seasons.
it continues to be used for the intended purposes, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly,
But
yeah.
Yeah,
You guys put a number that you're comfortable with, and we'll discuss it.
Okay.
Let's leave it at 12.
I would
Okay.
like to suggest that we add into the agreement that the city can terminate this agreement on notice to us.
Unilaterally? Unilaterally?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
No reason not to.
Yeah.
Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. 11. And we don't have, let's go to Exhibit C, conservation easements. I assume that, and insurance coverages. Everybody's okay with that?
Yeah. Obviously, we've shown that to Perderma.
yes.
Have we shown it to Perderma?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
One down.
I was only overruled with the time, so.
Today Mickey's hand is in the way of, what's today?
Today's the 16th.
Okay.
I had the under-over for 7:15 on that, so I did okay.
Which one?
Intergovernmental agreement for transfer
Okay.
of property. Yes?
Yes. Intergovernmental agreement for transfer of property, lots 1, 2, 6, and 7. Let's do it again, page by page. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3.
I'd like,
Wait, hold on. Okay. I just wanted to read.
yeah, I just think the language of paragraph G about the lease back, we have the location, there's this little cleaning up that we just need to do in that one, Rob.
To the,
So it's like, say, instead of no greater than 4 acres, just say, as set forth in exhibit, actually,
It'll be the agreement that's
Yeah.
attached.
actually
Okay.
set forth the area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any more on page 4? 3? I'm sorry, page 4.
And Rob, you're okay with deleting all the clauses regarding the nursery property, because that's contained in the other
yeah,
document? Okay.
yeah.
Is this going to be recorded?
Yes.
This one is not, but the others,
So is the lease, the first agreement we went through, are we recording? We're not going to
No.
record this lease, are we?
no.
Okay.
The Lot 4 agreement is to be recorded.
Okay.
Okay. Hearing nothing on page 4, page 5.
I have an issue with paragraph D, maybe you do. D is the district shall deliver a restrictive covenant.
Let me read it. I had more with E.
Yeah, this has been in this for a long time.
No, I understand.
Okay.
It had some editing, and I guess is this restrictive covenant would be another thing that we'd want to have as part of the package when we approve it.
Yes, yes.
And, again, I don't suppose we could record the whole thing and that would do it instead, but I'd leave it up to
Okay.
you and counsel for the city what they want to record.
My question is with regard to D, why originally was if we convey title, there's this reversion provision, but why was lease, license, or sign included in that? That wasn't part of the
That-
previous
No,
discussions I've had.
That was the city.
Why, if we have a license, let's say we have a vendor that we put on the property. Let's say we have we decided to put paddle boats in the pond there, and we sign a lease under this provision.
There's a reverter.
There's a reversion clause. I mean, it makes no sense.
Right.
So I'm okay with title. My understanding of all the discussions with the city is that if we, as a park district,
Try to
wanted
sell
to
it.
convey the property, which obviously we can't do under Illinois law, but even if somehow we try to, the state legislature changes Illinois law and we decide we have the ability to convey this property, the city says we don't want you to make money on it or convey it to someone to flip the property.
On that point,
Yeah.
that's a point I had, but I
Yeah.
think perhaps the intention is that we don't circumvent the conveyance of title. If
Yes.
that's the case, I can understand that they might want to have some limiting language.
But
And I-
let's put language in limiting it not as a whole, but as to,
It's the functional equivalent of a conveyance of title.
Yeah, it's like if we sign a 99-year lease, I get the city's point. Okay, it's the same thing as conveying the property. But if we do a license for the agreement, we have a lease on I don't think that should trigger a reversion provision.
Rob, can you rewrite that?
Or just address that? You see what I'm?
Yes.
Okay.
You better
Do
probably-
you have a thought as to how many years a lease would have to be for a good argument to be made for the reversion to trigger? 50 years?
Well, to Cal's point, if it's a paddle boat company, it could be 100 years, and it has nothing to do with conveying any kind of title or circumventing.
I would think 50 years. 50 years would be fine.
But not in the sense of a license to operate. a
No,
portion of
license
it.
will take, license we can, because licenses are more limited than
Yeah.
leases under the park code.
Okay.
Lease for greater than or equal to 50 years.
Paragraph E, you had a problem? Which E?
That-
I see two E's.
So there's one more question I have about this provision D, is if we enter, if there's under the current statute, the park district can convey up to 3 acres of property without going to referendum. That's my understanding of the regulations, correct?
Right, you have to go to court.
Or go to a referendum, right?
Anything under 3 acres, you go to court for approval. Anything over 3 acres goes to referendum for approval.
So instead of, let's say, for example, let's say the Legacy Club owners decide in the future that they much rather have, just hypothetically, they much rather have they own the property rather than we own the property, and it's under 3 acres. Should this be, instead of saying that the whole property gets reverted, an automatic reversion back to the city, well, first of all, maybe we should be able to do under 3 acres. That's the only thing I could think of, is if the Legacy Club people decide that they want to purchase that. And the alternative is maybe a pro rata share of the purchase price, because, the park district is not in the interest of making money on this property. So let's say if the Legacy people wanted $10 for their property, and as a board we decide that's a thing to do, I think that we should have the flexibility to do that without having the entire property revert back to the city.
Well, Cal, on the same point, just expanding it a bit, this says any portion of the property. And I think that's the part you were focusing
Yeah.
on. And I agree with you, and had circled that part
Well,
too.
it does have language that, you know, we have to go to the city for consent.
Not here, though. Well, it
Yeah.
says here, oh, yes.
If you keep
Maybe
reading.
withheld in their sole discretion.
Right, and that's,
I mean, then it really puts does the city really want the ball in their court if we decide we want to do that? Do they want to make that final determination? It's up to the city. I mean,
I think, Hal, focusing on your point, we should be able to administer the property and recognize that there could be a piece that we might sell to the Legacy Club. There could be other things that could come up without it triggering
the full reversion.
the reversion.
Yeah. So if you can
Yeah,
talk to Steve about that, Steve, I'm sure you can come up with something about that.
okay. Anything else on page 5?
Yes.
Yes.
On F, which is regarding the possible uses of certain holes, I wanted to add 10, 11, and 12 because we haven't done our master plan on that property yet. Not 10, I mean 11, 12, the ones that are along the creek, because we don't know exactly if we decide through using the golf.
11 and 12.
11 and 12, because then 13 goes up and then 14 goes back.
comes down.
So I'd like to add 11 and 12 there.
But we don't need to.
Right,
Let me explain why.
okay.
If we decide to take a part of the preserved property and add it to the Lot 3 enterprise
Yeah.
properties, that should be within our discretion. And I don't think that we should focus on that it'll be holes 13, 14, 1, 11. It's how we operate the property. And I don't see why there should be, and it wouldn't be a restrictive covenant anyhow. The language is bad. I don't think this provision belongs in here at all. We should be able to use it the way we use it.
Rob, why was that included?
the city added it in its last reiteration.
And
And I
what's,
haven't talked to Mr. Elrod as to why it was put in.
can you ask him what the basis of that request is? What's the rationale?
Yeah.
All right. From my perspective, it does not belong in this agreement.
I have to agree.
Okay.
And I will say that is a conversation that Gita and I had, because I believe the language that the city had was that it was to elaborate the intent, and the intent was to just incorporate a golf hole or two as a part of the learning center. Once it's our property, why should you even have a say on what we're going to do?
Correct.
Nor will it generate enough revenue that it should even be discussed in Lot 3. So
Well,
you'll see it out in
Yeah,
Lot 3.
I mean, we won't be generating we won't probably be generating.
It's going to be a part of a teaching lesson that will take place
Yeah.
on the Lot 3, that if they want to come over, so,
Yeah.
yeah, so staff-wise, we were good with that.
Yeah, got it.
And you'll
Okay.
see it
Good
again
with
in Lot
removing
3,
it.
and I think it should be, I think it should be removed.
Okay, fine.
Just broke the pen. Sorry, no. Let's go to paragraph K on the next page.
Page 6.
Well, paragraph K and paragraph M both talk about other agreements which need to be part of the package. Okay.
I've given you a whole list of additional documents.
So those will be drafted and.
And
brought
the
to press.
list is at your sides.
Well, okay,
Okay, page 7.
I have a change.
Okay, page 7. I guess we'll talk about M. That goes to 6 and 7 about utilities.
Yeah, and this is going to be drafted as, for everyone's review, which the easement agreement. My objection is that it talks about overhead utilities, and I think it should be above-ground utilities. It's not just wires that we may be concerned about, but it could be anything above grade.
Okay, there's a comment in green here.
Yeah, it's basically what Barney said.
Okay.
It was the comment of his on his comments that I was able to read.
Thanks.
He was furiously writing. Okay, page 8.
Did we get the survey?
We do, I believe we have the survey.
I know we have title.
Yeah. Yes, we have the well,
The survey is in review.
that's right.
Can we get
It's in
copies?
staff
Can you
review.
make a copy? And I'm sure Cal and I would both like to see it.
Sure.
And
Big size.
When's our next meeting? Tuesday?
Tuesday.
I think that if we have a presentation from staff, because there's a litany of easements on the title commitment, that if you can identify them on the survey, so have a presentation to us at the Tuesday meeting, we're showing it where the easements are located on the survey, that'd be helpful, so we know what we're buying. See what I'm saying?
No, I see what you're saying. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that I'm talking about the same document that you're talking about.
Rob
Because
doesn't.
Adam had sent
Yeah.
us, where's Rebecca's
I
head?
think one of the,
That was the survey that you guys have looked at, correct? Okay.
one of the issues may be that the city doesn't know where everything is.
But the surveyor can pick up from the title commitment where the utilities that are on title are supposed to be.
Okay.
And I think that's what Cal and I were
That's-
talking about. We want to make sure we know where they are.
We will get you everything that we have so you can see them, and you guys who are in
Trace
real
through them and read the
you,
legal
you all who are in real estate will know better than
Cal does it.
those of us that aren't.
Well, usually what I will do is I'll sit down with the title company, with the title commitment and the survey,
Okay.
and we'll go over the survey and locate everything so we can advise our clients
Okay.
where everything is.
I'm on
So that's
page
what we're,
9.
I'm the client this time, not the lawyer.
Well, Adam, you and Adam, not
Okay.
this Adam.
No,
Cal, do you
yes.
have anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, I'm at page, what page?
Page 9.
All right, top, all right. You want to talk about it? All right.
I'm enjoying my role.
Really?
I don't want to have in this document anything that could imply that we'll pay any real estate taxes, assessments, et cetera. And again, this comes up in other documents, but
I
I
know.
want very clear that saying this does not open us up to the possibility of future taxes.
Were you looking at, Bernie?
On the top of
Top
page
of
9.
page 9.
It comes up in the other documents about sharing of taxes, if they may come up, pro rata sharing. I don't want that, and I don't want this to lead into it.
So what are you saying? If for some reason the county or the state decides to tax municipal and governmental properties?
Well, we'd be stuck, but I don't want to give any implied consent. That's all.
And you,
I'm on page 12.
I don't see your point.
Should this remain as it is and address it in the other areas?
We could do that.
okay.
Okay.
You're on 12 now?
I just skipped over.
Oh, well, on page 12, number 3, there's
Wait,
a
hold on.
typo.
Well, wait.
Oh,
And there's
thank-
there's page 11 that we need to, does anybody have any questions about the changes on page 11?
So we skip 9 and 10.
Good, thank
Over
you.
dinner.
This is all the stormwater management that we've,
Just, Rob, can you walk us through what would happen if the Army Corps condemns a portion of lot 1 and 2 for some stormwater management? What happens if that happens?
Well,
How does it impact the districts?
if the Army Corps actually files a condemnation against, the Park District would be the owner.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's in state court, under state law, they would be responsible for paying the fair market value of the property to the Park District. Now, we haven't looked deep enough to know whether the Army Corps is obligated to obtain property like this for stormwater by eminent domain. There's certainly case law and statutory law that doesn't require them to take title through eminent domain, but if they cause the property to be unusable to the park districts for its intended purposes, that's also grounds for a federal lawsuit to.
For compensation.
Yeah, exactly.
And is there any provisions in this agreement which, has some, again, another reversion provision that the city would participate in any, or seek compensation under any such kind
No,
of?
what it's been changed to is that we're the property owner, we're entitled to anything that a property owner would be entitled to if the Army Corps or any other governmental agency comes and seeks to obtain your property or use your property for stormwater management. The discussions that we've had to involve the city in that effort have turned out that no, if we're gonna own the property, it's up to us.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that. Okay.
I think it even went further that you would have a seat at the table in those discussions with the Corps along the way, should that come up as a discussion,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
right?
All right.
Yep.
But Lori had,
Oh, I just caught something on
Agency.
page 12,
The
number
agency?
3. Yeah. Agency.
Oh.
Went from-
And Blue is the city's attorney, so.
They wanted to, what, they wanted
They
to
paid for that.
capitalize
capitalized it,
agency?
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Connie, you had more on 12?
well, yeah, on 12, I just want to make it clear. We intend to expend approximately 1.4 million. And I guess my question is, if we get a grant, how does that fit into our expending? I'm not sure the
Yeah,
word
I-
expending.
I saw your note, and I spent a while thinking about what a better word would be. And I believe that any grant that would be given to the Park District would turn the money over to the district. And therefore, the district would be
Expending the money anyway.
expending the money.
What if
I'm
we
not
get an
aware.
what if we get an in-kind service? So we get, open lands that offers their assistance in planning. And so we don't spend, $100 for a planner. I just want to broaden the concept so that,
If we spend less than $1.4 million forward on breach of contract.
if we actually
Simply
put
put.
out less than $1.4 million, but we achieve the result,
It says approximately.
Is invest better than expend? I like invest better than
So,
expend.
yeah, invest in approximately $1.4 million or whatever sum it takes.
Can I ask a question
Yeah,
about
of
this?
course.
So why is it important that number is in there? Just from
The
a
city
non-lawyer?
wants it.
That
Because,
was the deal.
because
Yeah.
part of the deal was
Yeah.
for us to get it less, we would put the difference in the property sooner rather than
Was there a
later.
commitment to do it? It's like a condition subsequent to a contract.
The city's price, they wanted it at
My only comment on that paragraph is in the first sentence, Rob, where it says, "It is the district's intent to develop and use the transfer property." And I would say, except as set forth in section 3D, which again allows us to license, well, maybe it's wrong. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Hold on a second.
But
'Cause we
while you're looking at that,
Yeah.
the green at the bottom of 10 is going to an earlier point where we could have third-party management. I
I'm
think
fine
it's
with
just misplaced.
What do you mean?
Oh, I'm not.
I mean, it doesn't go there?
It doesn't go there.
Well, yeah,
Well,
actually,
we put it there this afternoon, so if we need to find a better place for it, we'll find a better place for it.
again, getting to my point, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
My point is that we talked about possibly using a portion of Lot 1 for the Golf Learning Center. And so it says here, we're going to use the transfer property as a passive natural area, except if there may be a portion, if we keep a couple holes, I don't want to be in breach of the contract, except to set forth, and, well, right now.
Except as
it's-
otherwise provided in the agreement.
Exactly, that's fine. That's what I was trying to get at.
Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. Page 17. Page 18.
I have a question.
Okay.
Is the master agreement, I think we talked about this, but I don't remember the answer. Does the master agreement have any reason to remain in place?
Mr. Elrod suggested that it did. I will get his explanation for you.
Maybe it has an easement in it.
Anybody have any questions on page 19? 20. 21. 22. 23. 24 is insurance at the Dormer scene. 26. 27. 2 down.
And we have the depiction of the nursery property. It's,
Page
In that photo?
27.
Oh, I have them all right here.
Oh, yes.
Merrill, Merrill will show it to us.
I have one for all
No
of
one
you
knows
if
what
you'd
Carol
like.
Merrill is.
It's Vanna White.
Which next?
Okay, let's go to,
What
yeah,
agreement?
let's have fun, let's go to lot 3. Same deal, page 1.
Lot 3.
This is not page numbered, so we'll do left we can. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Okay.
I just would like to make it clear that, and I'll give a hypothetical, that if we rent out the driving range.
Short-term,
An
long-term, or at all?
To an operator, and that revenue is the rent or license fee we receive, not the fees people are paying to
On
use the
top
driving
of it.
range.
Because we're not getting any of those fees, they're getting it and then they're paying.
Well, it says derived by the district. So if we're getting rent, that's revenue we derive. If I go out and buy 2 buckets of balls and I pay $20 for them, then that's money that the operator is going to be getting.
On that theory, we don't have to say dome rental, which was put in here specifically on that. I mean, it's the same thing as dome rental.
But if we rent the dome,
So that just
we-
comes revenue towards.
and we get the money
Yeah.
for the dome rental, why wouldn't that be revenue to the district?
Well, it is, but it's the same theory as the dome rental. The only thing that counts as revenue is the actual rent that we collect. And so if we were to rent out the driving range, I'm saying it's the same thing. The only thing that counts as revenue that we report to the city is the rent we get for the driving range, not the fees people pay.
Membership fees, season, daily, and other admissions.
What paragraph is this?
It's paragraph 4A.
4A.
I think it was Barney's,
Okay.
double dipping.
I understand the point. I'm not sure it's not covered.
What Barney's thing is saying, it says rental of facilities includes the dome, so why are we putting dome in there also? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, be the same thing.
You said you're saying it's redundant.
All
Because we raise it in one point,
Yeah.
money
that leaves open, should be raised for everything else that we might be doing.
received by operators,
Mhm.
vendors, other,
I have a next,
wait,
Okay.
Hmm.
third parties.
You got,
Shall not be considered revenue. So something like, Barney, all money received by operators, vendors, or other third parties shall not be considered revenue.
that's where I want to make clear, that's all. And I think it's consistent, because if somebody pays us $1,000 a year to rent the driving range, that's our revenue. Okay.
Like I say, I understand your point. We'll put that in
And
and see how high up the flagpole it goes.
and in paragraph B, in the second line, I'd like to insert the word operating as part of the expenses. It's conducting, managing, and maintaining, but it's also operating.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President?
okay. Is everybody happy with the expenses?
Yeah.
Language of the
On
expense
that
line?
page, now we have to go to the next page.
Okay. I don't know what page number we're on.
It's
Five.
It's 5.
It's at the end of paragraph B before paragraph little c. It's paragraph 4, actually.
Okay, all right, page 5.
It's not helpful.
I have some questions, but I want to.
It's the one with the little green note on it.
It's one
The
that says
first
May
word on the
11th
top of the paragraph is the expense.
That's probably the one.
That's it.
Go ahead.
Where are we?
Where are we? We're in the definition of expenses about the management fee at the very top of the page.
Okay.
Mine are lower down, so let's start with yours.
Well, this reads as the lesser of 7% or $ blank. And I think the whole purpose of this is to agree, to set a management fee.
When we met with the city, they wanted to see a dollar amount, not a percentage. And we just haven't come to any agreement on what that is yet.
So, in other words, it could say a management fee of $100,000,
We'll see how it goes.
as opposed to taking out the percentage. So,
Yes.
then
How-
I think that's what we need to achieve. Now, it's not the lesser of. I mean, it is what it is. It's either 7% or it's $100,000.
When we met, it was a dollar amount. This is language from the city from last Friday, so I'm not sure what, because it states both, so which one is
Well,
it?
do we know how much the annual expenses are?
Yes, because we just ran the calculation yesterday.
Are we
If
putting
you
on
give
the
us-
spot?
Yeah, you know,
sorry.
we can grab the report.
We can do this, we can talk about this next week, but I mean, it would be helpful, do we know what the amount of the annual expenses are while we're trying to fix an amount?
It might, for purposes
trying
of
to do, yeah.
discussion that we may have, it might be helpful to have a copy of the budget that we have for 18. Oh, I think, I'm just gonna talk through this with you guys because we've had a lot of conversations about this. So one of the, but it was because this is the first year that we are operating the driving range independent from the golf course. Expenses and revenues are, we made our best projections in the budget because we don't know what use will be, we don't know what repairs are going to be, because in previous years, all of the range expenses and management fees and everything were put into the golf clubhouse budget. So this is really our opportunity to see what really happens in terms of revenue generation and expenses, because we are allocating all of our direct expenses to the driving range. So we have a number, a projected number, that's our budgeted number for 18. We don't know what the future will look like, and frankly, we don't know. We're hoping that this is,
Well, here's my suggestion, because again, we're operating right now without any historical basis to
Exactly.
come up with this number. So why, you see this in commercial leases, why don't we do like a base year? And where we calculate, let's 2019 or 2020 we can use, whatever the expenses are for that year, and that's the base year, because that would be 1 or 2 years removed from the country club operating, and then we could kind of set the number based on what the expenses are of that year.
But that would be a percentage.
That would be a percentage. And that's what we have to do, because we can't give a fixed amount, because we don't have any historical data in order to provide that number.
Well, but Cal, this is predicated, now, it could be 7% of the expenses, whatever they are, or a dollar number, which we don't have,
We don't have that
on a
number.
not-to-exceed basis. So the point I think that we're saying is we want to fix it. Your point is, we'll know in 2 years what the number is, but we're still looking at a percentage.
I think we just go, we can't do a fixed number then. We have to do it based on a percentage.
And is our,
We
I'm
can't
gonna
do a
ask
fixed
a
number. We don't have that
question
number.
that might be answered, if we talking about, what expenses? Capital expenses, operating expenses, a
It's
combination?
defined term expenses.
It's just, it's capital E, which is what is defined in 4B.
Okay.
So I think it has to stay, we can't give them a fixed amount.
No.
Because we don't know what that number is.
And are we
Yeah.
okay
Comfortable
with
with
7%?
That's up to you guys, that you're operating it. It's up to staff.
We'll go back at 7%.
and this has been negotiated back and
Yeah.
forth, so I think
7%.
7 was splitting the difference.
And that's, if that's the number you agreed upon, that's fine. I think we should stick to that
Mhm.
percentage.
Okay. Any more on paragraph B? All right, let's look at paragraph C. So this is new, it's blue. Rob?
Yes. From the city.
As I read this, in the event, well, I'll read it. In the event that annual expenses exceed annual revenues in any year, the district shall notify the city, and with the prior written approval of the city, which approval may be withheld at the city's discretion, expenses may be carried over to future years and operate as a charge against future net revenues prior to the payment of future rent. I have a problem with that. If we can't carry over expenses, why would we put any money into the property? If we're to be paid back for capital expenses on a split that we're gonna talk about in paragraph 5, why would we put in anything more than what we anticipate getting back in revenue?
Let me go back and read the definition of expenses, so give me a second.
As Cal's reading, I agree with you.
Because in the discussions that I was a party to, we've always talked about rolling over, especially capital
That's my
expenses.
point.
So I mean, I think if it's, one thing may be operating expenses, but capital expenses, we have to roll those over, because you're not gonna recover those necessarily in 1 year.
That's my point, but if we have a prohibition against it, why would we wouldn't put any capital expenses into the property?
So is there a way we can create a difference between normal annual operating expenses and capital expenses and make sure that those roll over? We do that?
Of course we can.
Sure, if
Yeah.
that's what you want to do.
To you guys.
Yeah, that's my understanding. That was the intent. And that was what, I think the city was fine with that.
Well,
The
original intent was that everything was going to be lumped in a net
Yeah.
expense, and that would be rolled over. So certainly, we have a definition, I think, of what a capital expense is. So
Yeah.
if you just want to roll over capital expense, we
It gives
can-
us our incentive to invest in it.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, with this clause, we wouldn't invest a penny into it.
Yeah.
In a property that's
I
not
think we have
ours.
to go back three prior versions when we had that split up. Remember, there was language about that.
And it
It's in
changed.
paragraph 5.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Okay, anything else on paragraph C? Paragraph 5, revenue share.
This is what we agreed to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fine.
Where are you?
Paragraph 5.
Well, I just- I wanna-
Okay, good, okay.
We're gonna go back to C.
Oh, going back. Let's see. Whatever you do, don't mention this.
What we're saying is
Yeah, loss.
that we have to be allowed to carry over capital expenditures.
Is it capital or operating?
Capital.
So if we have a losing year, then the city will write us a check for loss of operations.
What?
No, no, and that's, in conjunction with paragraph 5, we get paid back.
So this is just addressing capital and not operating.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to be clear, because there will be, it's possible that as we are learning the operations of the range, that we may be putting more money operationally into it. We may have a year, we may lose money this year. We're projecting to lose money this year. We may lose money next year, that the city will write us a check for the difference.
Where's that?
Where's that?
Well, this is what we're saying. It's, we're
I'm
talking
okay
about-
with that.
We're talking about capital.
Done,
We had
next.
talked, I
Okay,
think, well, I know
what
what
do
it
we
was.
sign?
It was a comment, Brian, it was a comment that you and I, it was a discussion that we had, that we don't, if we cap operational expenses and we end up spending more, your comment was we don't want to eat the city's share.
Well, let's say, for example, we lose money. Then the city doesn't drive any revenue from our revenue splits.
We will absorb
We
the
ab-
losses.
we absorb that loss. We're not asking for reimbursement from the city.
Capital, we will
Capital gets
share.
rolled over. That's the portion. So if we operate at a loss, that's on us.
Okay, I just
Okay.
make, so everyone is
Yeah.
clear there.
But if
'cause
it's a
there's been
capital
lot
expense,
of-
let's say we put $500,000 to, let's say $150,000 to upgrade the driving range, and we don't realize that revenue in year one, that gets rolled over, so we can collect it.
I'm totally with you. I just wanted to make sure that everyone was clear
And
that
Cal-
if we are losing money operationally,
That's-
that it is on the park
Yes.
district. There, okay. Because,
And-
again, a lot of conversations
Mm-hmm.
on this, so I just want to make sure we're clear.
And Cal, that is what goes into the revenue share, where the capital expense, if there's a capital recovery, then the city gets 25% of our net revenue.
Yeah, because that helps us accelerate our
If
reimbursement.
there is no capital recovery, then the share is 50/50.
Yes,
Right, and
unless we operate at a loss and we absorb the entire loss.
And we had agreed, instead of taking back all the capital, to give the city 25% in a given year, so that if,
That gives them revenue
It gives them
on an
revenue.
annual basis, and it gives us an opportunity to step up what we receive in reimbursement. I think that's fair.
And if
Okay.
we operate at a loss, so we have no net revenue,
Yes.
then the city gets no rent that year, and that's clearly stated.
Yeah, we're not going to pay rent if we're not making money.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Okay, I get it.
where we are.
I get it, okay.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
where are you? Revenue. All right, I'm gonna ask my question, and I'll get skewered for it, I know Annette's waiting. If in a given year, we have revenue, we split it 75-25, so the city gets something, and we have capital expenditures that we're paying back, what percentage of that 75 will go to capital expenditures and payback to get us back to that 50-50, and what will go back into our fund as revenue? Does that make sense? Because if the, and here's my thought, if the city is getting 25% revenue in a given year, we should be getting that same revenue and not paying back our capital expenditure at 75%, but we should be paying back at 50% of whatever that number is, and then use that other 25% as revenue and carry it over.
I think I agree with you, Brian, because the point of the revenue share that was favored toward the park district
Is to share
is for
revenue.
you to, for us to get something every year, in theory, if you make money, but also to pay back your capital investment. But let's say you invest $500,000. If you take 75 and we take 25, what's allocated towards your capital contribution and what's your basis going forward, so that at the point that your capital is recovered and we split 50-50, how do you bring down your capital balance?
What I proposed in conversations with Liza and whoever else was telling me I might be wrong, was if we take 50%, I'll use a set number. There's $100,000 to be split at the end of the year. City would get 25,000 in revenue. We would take 25,000 in revenue, and we would use 50,000 to pay back the capital expenditures. So if it's $500,000 now, in year two, it's 450,000, and each party's derived the same revenue from whatever that given year is if we make money.
But that, all that's doing is directing the, maybe a change in how the accountants
Yeah,
allocate the dollars.
it's exactly, it's the allocation.
And
But I don't wanna
isn't that an internal?
Here's my
No,
suggestion.
but it's
Okay.
not internal. It's what I don't want to do is have this conversation. I want to allocate half to construction costs or capital expenditures and split the other half as revenues, so in other years, we're not recovering the 75%.
I understand what you're saying, because you want to be fair to the city, I get it. So I think what we should do is have our two finance directors get together and figure out what the formula is.
Because I've got the city here saying I'm actually right.
Well,
Yeah.
you're right, but in theory, Brian, if it's 25-75, one could make the argument that the revenue is 25. So our 25, if it's 100 grand, we take 25 as operating revenue, you take 25 as operating revenue, you get another 50 on your split that should go towards capital.
That's what you just said.
50 is,
Right.
right, that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
I think
And-
just by the fact of the 25-75 formula, wouldn't one assume that 25 and 25 is equal for operating, and the 50% bonus that you're getting
Yes, but-
is to be applied to capital?
Yes, but this document didn't say that.
Well,
And I
Okay.
wanted to address it before,
Totally?
this
Totally.
document just said 75-25. So I wanted to talk about how we allocated our 75%.
We
Well,
just put
that's
an
totally
example.
fair,
Why
because we
don't
don't
you
want to
ask
be paying you
our
capital costs
finance
forever.
director?
We
Yeah.
want that shared approach 50/50.
I mean, there are
That is-
accounting standards by which you
is
amortize
this
the
a
capital expense.
process
I
that
understand that,
is
but
being made
I
out
don't
of
know if we have
thin air, or is this a
75%
typical?
pay off our debt, and we don't
Okay,
have
so,
revenue
because-
that year.
This is thin air, and I'm gonna,
Because it says, for the purpose of calculating net revenue, the parties agree to rely on accounting methods adopted from time to time by the district, provided they are not inconsistent with general acceptable accounting principles. That would cover what you're saying.
What I don't want is the city to come back and say, it was 500,000, but you got 75,000 towards that and nothing towards revenue.
They can't, because it goes to our accounting methods, as
Okay.
Rob just recited.
All right, that was really it.
Just want to make sure there's no confusion and we're on the same
Right,
page.
that's all. I
That's a good
didn't
point.
want us to
Brian,
start
that's a good
splitting up
point.
our 75 and
Yeah.
then have the city say, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's a good point. I just
Okay.
think if we just, maybe put an example in the agreement, so there's,
Well,
you know,
Depends how you amortize
I would,
the,
I would rather, I think that if
My way
we,
is simple.
well, if we can reduce your way to a policy, a Park District accounting policy, then it comes in under the agreement.
and that's something
and-
that has to be reviewed with our auditors.
I understand.
I don't know. Yeah.
Because otherwise-
And just,
But
Otherwise,
it's something-
writing this
it's
is
something
gonna
I
be
want
a
us to keep
nightmare.
working
You don't want
towards.
to amortize something over 15 years.
so I think that,
That's the point.
that the conversation that we have been having, Annette and I, and we've had these conversations with Brian, is that when we make money at, the Park District receives revenues from taxes, and then from fees and charges. We have areas that make money to help subsidize other areas that lose money. So in the example that Brian is giving, if we make $100,000, or, we make $100,000 and we are gonna share it with the city had asked for this type of a split so that they would be recouping some revenue each year. We agreed on this 25-75 split, which is fine, everyone agreed to that. Brian is thinking this through, is saying, well, the city's getting 25% profit, or $25,000. What happens to our profit? And in our accounting world, all of that money then goes into the general fund, for lack of a better word, to help offset or subsidize losses in other areas. So we have one, if you look at it, we have one pot that has all of our revenues and all of our property taxes, and at the end of the day, we pay our bills, and any money that's left over goes back to help pay for future capital and all of, and those types of expenses. Did I say that correctly?
But at some point in time, we have to get to a 50-50 split with the city with revenue.
and that's what
And
we're
the
paying
question
rent.
is, when do we get to that 50-50 split? And we get to that 50-50 split when the capital expenditures are paid off.
But that then goes to our accounting practices as to how many years you amortize your capital expense. And that is done, that's done in the accounting practices and reports.
Are we doing this on a cash basis or not doing it on a cash basis?
Well, we do it on a cash basis, correct?
So if we invest $500,000, we're not amortizing anything, we're just reimbursing ourselves
Right.
based on the cash
Right, and all I'm
basis that we
saying is,
receive on it.
I want a mechanism in place that we know when to switch it from 75-25 to 50-50. And we get to that when we pay off the capital expenditure.
On a cash basis.
On a cash basis. So if in a given year, we make $100,000, $50,000 goes to pay off the expenditures. So each party gets $25,000 in revenue, and then we see what happens the next year. And we pay down and we split
Yeah,
whatever revenue is
Because
left.
we have to remember, this is a lease. We're leasing a property, and this is our lease payment is this revenue share.
So it would seem that the logical next step for us is to talk with our auditor and make sure,
Craft a formula and
yeah.
a policy that you could share with the city's finance director. You guys have a meeting of the minds, and we'll all live happily ever after.
Okay.
Well, how does,
that's-
how does, how does this, how does this sound?
Yeah.
Sounds wonderful.
To put in here somewhere. In the event the district has outstanding capital expenses and there is a positive net revenue, the city shall receive 25% of the net revenue. The district shall receive 20% of the net revenue.
25.
25, I'm sorry. And 50% of the net revenue shall be allocated to pay down such outstanding capital expenses.
Perfect.
Until it's paid in full.
Perfect, that's exactly what I want to do.
So can I just ask something?
Sure.
Yes.
He has two
I
things.
just want clarification because
No, I'm kidding. I'm
I'm the one
sorry.
who's gotta make, keep track of all of this. What happens when in year one, we do some capital improvements and we don't quite pay it down, and in year two, we might not quite pay it down yet, the revenue share, but then in year three, we're adding more to it?
It keeps
Is
getting,
it-
it keeps
it
getting
just
carried
keeps
over.
accumulating
Yes.
along? I just wanna
Yeah.
make sure everybody
Yeah.
is
Keeps
on
carrying
agreement
over.
with that.
Yeah.
And all I want to make sure is that we know when we're
This-
paid up, and then we
Okay.
get the
So
same
as we
revenue the
add
city
new
gets.
capital to it, if need be, the city realizes that they'll just continue with the 25%.
Until it's paid off.
Until the original capital improvements as well as the new ones
That's what I thought it was.
have all been paid off.
Yeah, you're gonna have to
I
keep,
understand what your
yeah,
point is.
you're gonna have
I didn't
to,
have to
keep a separate balance,
would be done
balance,
automatically.
put a separate line, yeah, of what the capital improvements
Well,
are.
but of course
And then,
that's
yeah,
where
we'll just on a basis, on
I know,
a
but
yearly
that's
basis,
where our
hopefully that
account
we'll be deducting from
Well, we
that.
can,
Okay.
We can do it.
That provides an incentive for the district to invest in the property.
I jumped
Okay.
over to
Okay.
tax, section 8.
That was
Page
fun.
6. Conditions
This
maintenance
was
and-
page 6.
Page 7.
I don't know what the page numbers are.
Page 7 has a small D in the middle
Yeah.
of the page. All right, I'll go by section. Section 8, condition maintenance improvements. Page 2 of section 8. So we've agreed to split between the parties the cost of the parking lot, which is fine. Page 8, which starts with small c, anything. Page 9, that starts with number 7, utilities.
I do.
There is a green,
Well, yeah, this is, Rob, one of
Yeah.
the sections that talks about, section number 8 on this page,
Yeah,
talks about taxes and assessments, and this is where I want to add in the language that we're not acknowledging that any taxes can be imposed on us.
and I think that's, the green box identifies that.
Okay.
page 10, starting with blue writing,
With word termination?
termination. Page 11, which is subparagraph 16, termination.
Rob, you have is that your comment?
where?
In green?
Yeah.
On number 16?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, by taking this out, we take the property and any hazardous environmental problem that may come up over the next 99 years could be our responsibility.
Can you, what possible environmental issue could we have?
Well, it sits on a landfill. So while right now we've had an indication that there's minor leaching of the landfill that's not causing anyone any problems. I'm not going to predict what could happen, and since we're not the owner, we shouldn't accept, unless we're the ones that caused the problem, 100% of the responsibility in the event. So the city took all of this out. We're gonna come up with some language that describes what I just said to you in a way that doesn't contain as much as is in here, but we have to agree that the city has a certain amount of responsibility as owner for whatever exists out there at the present, and if what exists out there causes an issue due to no fault of the park district, that the city is going to have some responsibility as well.
I think that's an important point, because the landfill was created by the city, I assume, correct?
Yeah.
So we had nothing to do with creating that landfill. We don't know how it was created. We don't know how it was done, how it was constructed, how it was capped. And for us to assume the liability on a landfill that we did not create, I think would be negligence on our part. I mean, it'd be-
I will tell you, I wholeheartedly agree, and I understand that we've had tests done, and we know percentages, and it's a small percentage, but I can't agree to this language and put the park district at issue for potentially millions of dollars down the road to clean up someone else's property.
to make $50,000 running a driving range.
Right,
All right.
Can I ask a question?
absolutely.
So, is this maybe related to some previous agreement? I mean, did a previous contract have any of this language in it? When we're currently leasing from the park, from the city, right?
Still the
So it
city's.
doesn't,
No.
No, it's silent on
The
this.
silent, still the city. Again, you know better than me, Rob, under Illinois law, the city's responsible. And I think what they're trying to do is shift the liability to the park district.
Right, you can contract for anything.
Yeah, but I'm not willing to accept that liability we're operating a 50,000, a driving range, and we're gonna accept liability. I mean, the chances are very remote that there's gonna be an issue.
What we're
but-
saying,
yeah.
what we're saying isn't unreasonable. So
I think we all agree.
let's get,
Yeah,
we'll
Let's
get
get
to the
better language
language.
and.
it's not worth
And-
the risk.
Of course not.
Yeah.
So I have a question on the same page.
Okay, so,
Have we previously agreed that this could be terminated every 25 years? I thought this was a 100-year agreement.
Where's that say?
It's in paragraph 16.
16 before the red starts.
I mean, that may have appeared in an earlier draft, and I think I noted it and commented about it.
I don't remember us
That was,
discussing it.
that's been added by the city
When was that added? I mean, that.
a couple of iterations ago.
And we objected to it in the comments previously.
Well, I think we'll find out why the city put that in there. Brian, you talk to in your working group and figure out what the rationale behind that decision.
And just from another perspective, we have talked about reviewing this agreement on, if not annually, every couple of years, because we don't know what might change in terms of 10 years from now. Maybe we want to change the use of the driving range to something else. What's the next greatest thing? So I think we want to have the ability to, I don't think we want to wait 25 years to say, okay, let's reassess it.
Well, at any time, the parties can amend the lease.
Yeah.
So if something comes up and we go to the city, or we have a great meeting of the minds, and there's something that can go there, and the city's fine with it, then,
Okay.
I'm noting the objection to the termination rate.
okay. What about the one where,
On the next page?
yeah,
I also note on the
Yeah.
next page,
Well, let's,
You're talking about the blue now?
the blue.
Yeah.
so it says in blue, is the city shall have the right to terminate this lease prior to the expiration of the term in the event that annual expenses exceed annual revenues for 5 consecutive years, provided the written notice of such termination is given by the city to the district within 180 days after the expiration of such 5th consecutive year. My biggest issue with this is that the way our programs run is if they break even with tax dollars on top of it, we're in a good place. Which kind of presupposes that it's running at a loss generally. I mean, we have a lot of properties that run at a loss without tax dollars. So we can't close it if we're providing a service to the community and the community's using it, but those costs out.
I think a better provision would be an abandonment provision, that if we are not operating it as the use that's set forth in this agreement for certain consecutive years, then the city can terminate it. But I agree with you, I mean, because not necessarily all our facilities
Make
turn-
money.
Make
That's
money.
not our mission.
Yeah, we're not in the business. And the other thing I would point out, if there's any discussion with regard to the city having the ability to terminate the lease, let's say, for example, if we had this provision in year 4, we make a capital improvement, and it doesn't make money the next year, we are out, not only, the community's without this facility, but the Park District then is out all the money that they invested for the capital improvement.
I think we all agree.
Yeah.
I have no- Page 13, starting middle is section 18. No, it's just notices. Page 14, certifications are good. Page 15, 16, 17, going once, going twice.
I have nothing else.
Okay.
Shared use agreement?
Shared use agreement, lot 4.
Hold on.
Talking about the parking lot and portions of the rec center and country club building. Are we ready?
I have a comment on page 1. You knew I had to do this.
I know. I
Yeah, and the
don't know what it is.
The first whereas, this agreement will be entered into
Sausage making.
after we already own Highland Park Country Club Preserve property. And this talks about that the city is the fee simple owner.
Where are you, Barney? I'm sorry.
On page 1, the first whereas, this agreement will be entered into after we own the preserve, not the city. So that's just a clarification.
Okay. Page 2.
So it would be the district.
Yeah, because this will be executed at closing.
Page 2.
I have, on page 2, I suggest we just take out the square footage rather than leaving a blank.
Yeah, who cares?
Page 3. Excellent. Page 4.
Well, on page 3, I still have my problems with the locker room being a common area because of our needs. And Cal, I think you raised the fact that we need to have a security
Yeah.
consultant.
Yeah, we've talked in the past with regard to the locker rooms. We are very sensitive to the safety issue of people using our locker room, and then also not controlling that access. And by making it a common area, that potentially can be a safety issue. A lot of young children access that locker room for swimming without their parents. Let's say if they have a mother who comes and their boy goes in the men's locker room unattended and without that being a controlled area. And what we suggested is that we would retain a safety expert to come in and help us regulate that and to control the access points to the locker room. And so our concern with making it a common area is how does that reconcile with the legitimate safety concerns that we have with people accessing that locker room. So I don't know where we are, if we retain a safety expert or anything, but I think that is something that we have to address immediately.
And the city had asked to have the locker room remain a common area because of the potential movement of the seniors.
Well, that's an issue.
Yeah.
Because we have to figure out how, because if the seniors are using it during the day, and then there's a 6-year-old boy who's unattended in the locker room there, that's an issue.
Or a
So
6-year-old girl
Yeah.
in there.
I'm-
It's based vice versa.
I might make a suggestion
Yeah.
that if this is something that the city desires, that we engage in having someone come out and do an audit of how we could provide security and at what cost, and have the person that wants it pay for the cost.
No, I don't think that's fair.
Well, what we have
Paying for the cost.
in the pool hallway, on the bottom of page 4, that the city added, actually, says, "And subject to reasonable safety and security regulations established by the district." If we added that to the locker rooms, does that accomplish or meet your concern?
Well,
It's not-
what would happen if it's a common area and a security expert came in and said, lock that back door?
Is that a reasonable safety?
That's a reasonable safety and
security
security
regulation.
regulation.
I'll add that
Which
I
we
have,
would do
I have
anyway.
the same concern about the pool hallway as I have about the locker room being common areas.
When you brought this up with them, I mean, you've had these discussions, because we've talked about it on numerous occasions. Do they recognize the issue
The
that we
language
have?
was added to include the reasonable, what,
Yeah, the next
yeah.
page.
We have not had further conversations with them about the whole security. I mean, we talked about security initially, but it has not gone back to the city since discussed by this board.
I think regardless of these agreements, we have to have that security audit done as soon as possible. I mean, what we've done at all our facilities, we're trying to
And
limit our
we're, yeah,
access.
and we're in process of that.
I think we need to work on that, regardless of what happens with this agreement.
But focusing on this right now, I think both the common area, having, in my opinion, the locker rooms as a common area accessible to anybody, and having the pool hallway, it's the same issue.
Same issue.
Since it's the pool hallway that gives access to the locker room, I think those really are issues that we can't just gloss over. And your point about the safety concerns was exactly what we discussed, and I think that still is a safety concern.
We have to figure this out. And I'm sure the city will be on board too. We have to figure this out because, we're all, I mean, our most important concern, one of our most important is the safety of our patrons.
Number one.
Number one. Safety doesn't sleep.
Safety is number one, and it never sleeps.
Okay.
So we'll,
So that has remained as an unresolved item
Yeah.
at this
We have
point.
someone's gonna have to figure that out.
And another point on making the locker room.
Are you on page 4 still?
No, I'm on page 3-4. Another point on the common area, locker room being common area and the pool hallway being common area is, in both cases, remodeling, alterations to it, something that we will be very intent on. And I'm not sure that having it as a common area, which brings the city into that mix, is really what we want to get involved with.
So, do we need to add language as to our ability to alter or change the locker room portions of the common area? Because those locker rooms need to be redone.
But if it's common area, wouldn't it only be fair that the city help pay for that? For anything to do with the
But it's
locker room?
but we're the ones using it.
Yeah,
mean,
I have
think
no
it's our
problem with paying
responsibility
for
to
it. I
pay
just
for
don't
it.
want us to have to go through the city and get other approvals and do the
Oh,
dance
okay.
with the city. I just want to be able to fix the locker rooms and make them up to last decade, not many years ago.
And now that golf is no longer being used there, so there's no need for golfers to access the locker
Right.
room. So there's been a change in circumstance there.
Major change.
Major change in circumstance. So, the question is, why do the seniors need access to the locker room?
Are there bathrooms in the country club?
Yeah,
Right.
there's the banquet bathrooms.
And it's up the stairs, so that you wanted something that's down,
But yeah.
right? I mean, I can assume
The
that
cafe
that's.
doesn't
You
have a
asking me,
bathroom.
Terry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Locker
part
room.
of the reason for the language is we're not certain what or if is gonna happen there with the senior center. So I think we wanted the
Well,
the
I think
ability to
we
to
can
have
make it
flexibility
common,
for that.
we can keep it common. But
Make it a limited common area.
Limited common area,
Yeah.
uh,
Declaration.
Yeah.
with the right to
40-page
remodel or
area.
alter,
Yeah.
and with the right to security procedures, which we have, in our discretion. Because I don't want to start getting into a battle of words with the city if we want to add security and someone there doesn't want us to.
Public safety is our core mission.
I know,
too, so
but-
Yeah.
we'll figure that out.
All right.
But if
Well,
it
there-
turns into a senior, if some usage for the seniors, wouldn't they use the cafe? That area,
Well,
Yeah,
that's,
The thing is-
possibly? And then how would, you have to think too, how the seniors would access the bathroom. You're asking them to go upstairs, so that may be an issue. Because they shouldn't be able to go in through the back, it should only be, so just keep in mind, that may come up with seniors not wanting to go upstairs.
We understand.
All right.
That's what's driving part of the problem.
Right.
we may have to build a bathroom.
Well, that was my thinking,
Yeah.
but who builds
If
it?
you go to page 6,
They should have their separate bathroom.
any expense to repair or maintain the common area or common facilities in excess of $5,000 requires bilateral approval.
We can't, if we're gonna
So-
update our locker rooms, we're gonna spend more than $5,000. We have to, is that saying we have to go to the city to get their approval in order to upgrade the locker rooms?
That's what it says.
Well, that's-
Neither party's cooperation or.
Well, that's
approval
why I
shall be
wanted to
unreasonable.
put in
But that's just an
in
added
the
step.
earlier paragraph, that we have, it can be a common area, a limited common area, but we have the right to alter or repair without going through city approval, so that we can,
Right.
we can just redo the locker rooms and just skip a whole bunch of steps and get it done.
And pay for it ourselves.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we'll pay for
our use,
ourselves.
we have to pay for it.
Okay.
I mean, they're welcome to join in, but this is on our dime. I mean, it's,
All right, I can work that out.
because we don't know if the seniors are gonna end up there, or when. We don't know if the seniors are gonna end up there or when.
We don't either yet.
So, we need to move forward on our facilities.
But regardless, since there's no longer a golf course being operated outside these agreements, we have to lock, for better, lack of a better word, lock down those locker rooms.
Yes, because
Yeah.
unless
Whatever
it's a
se-
safety hazard.
Whatever the,
Fire
se-
hazard.
whatever our security consultant's gonna say.
Right. Okay.
Is there any portion that we've been talking about that we could imagine the city would want to invest in to make those kinds of changes without our approval?
Yeah.
The only thing I think is
When
the
you
actual
see-
restroom area.
Well, actually,
Right,
we
when the
we
seniors
deal with
get-
that with the banquet hall, with the
Yeah.
banquet facility.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Expect to be accepted.
What
General
page are you
meeting.
on?
I'm on page 5,
Okay.
because I wrote a note to myself that, why do we need if we don't do banquets?
On page 5, Barney?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what that means. So we're going to provide the general maintenance, the mess. Oh, my question was, do we need the monument sign if we don't provide banquets?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have the rec center, we have basketball teams, people have to rec.
And the preserve.
Yeah,
Just asking.
yeah, of course.
So I do have a question on page 5, the last line of section B. The district shall not be required to perform maintenance or snow removal in the parking lot without a new written agreement between the parties. Is that going to be incorporated into this document?
What?
Where are you, Brian?
It says
End of
that-
B, page
End of B?
5.
Is this the new written agreement between the parties so that we can continue to do snow removal and maintenance on the property?
No, this comes up if they change the parking lot and we have to revisit the cost factors that go into it.
Okay. Perfect.
And I can give you an update on Exhibit F. So
Okay.
we got a proposal from the city today to have someone come in and do utility study. It's really the electric. And then whatever the formula of usage is for that, that could be the same formula that could be used for parking and maintenance. Or we get that formula and then we can review it. We just got it, so we haven't looked at it, but we have a starting point. The cost of the study would be $5,000, and it's to be split evenly between the city and the park district. So we will proceed ahead with that, and that's what we had agreed to do when we couldn't agree on what the percentages were. So we'll see what that comes back with, and then talk amongst ourselves. And so I'll call Gita tomorrow and give her the thumbs up.
Okay, good. Page 6. Page 7. Anything on page 7 before
Which page 7? No, nothing on there.
I don't understand part of the new language on banquets.
Yeah, I didn't understand it at all.
If
You're talking about B on page 8?
Yeah, well, no,
B and C.
page 7, starting at page 7, the bottom of section A,
Mm.
where at some point in time, we get to keep booking banquets, but we have to run every booking by the city.
But those are bookings for after December, this is bookings for 2019.
Which is fine.
Well, I understand that, but shouldn't there just be a blanket way and not every, do we have to run every booking by the
We
city?
may not be operating it next
The
year.
conversation that I had with Gita, and this was not incorporated, was that instead of getting every booking approved, just send her, as we get requests, just send them to her so that she knows what's going on.
Right.
And we're
For
not seeking
29
approval.
For 2019.
And I'm just saying, I don't want the work for someone on our staff having to, every booking, have to send it to the city for 2019 or whatever year it is, and then wait 2 days to get it back.
If we don't know, it says here, if we don't get it back within 2 days, it's deemed approved.
All right. I just didn't understand the reasoning.
That's more work for actually, it's more work for the city to review all this. It's not, we're doing this anyway.
Okay, page 8. Page 9.
Wait, I'm on page 8.
I
I was just trying to understand. The expenses we're talking about here, capital, are related to the banquet facility?
Barney, please, where are you again?
I'm on page 8.
B, C?
Well, no, I understand B, I understand C. I am trying to understand the minor capital projects, and then it goes into the major capital
That's E.
projects. And it talks about during the period when we're operating banquets. So my question is, are other capital expenses that might be required for the building included in the Exhibit F? How do we deal with replacing a boiler?
Exhibit F. They'll be
Okay,
addressed in Exhibit
so
F.
then the text here for the minor capital and the major capital is, because it all talks about banquets, is just limited to the banquets, which lives in this document for
Correct.
maybe a year.
Correct.
Correct.
The only change I would make in C, where it says the parties agree that any year which the district responsible for banquet operations, the city, I would just make sure that it's clear at the city's sole cost and expense. Shall have the right but not obligation to make cosmetic improvements. I assume that's the deal, right?
Yes.
We're not paying for it, the city would pay for that. See, it's C, the second.
I know.
Just want to make sure it's clear. At the city's sole and sole cost and expense.
So, following up on minor capital projects, if we're operating the banquet facility and we say we have to replace the carpeting or chandeliers, that, if it's under $10,000,
That's it.
who pays for it?
We do.
We do. We pay for it.
This year.
Why do we agree to pay for something that inures to their benefit for a year? Because we have to?
I suspect if you're going to, if you're doing banquets in 2020, it's because you're making good money at it. And if, in order to continue to do that, you've got to replace a portion or all of the carpeting for $5,000, you will decide financially that it's worth paying the $5,000 to continue attracting appropriate banquets.
So minor capital projects, if we're continuing after 2018 to operate the banquet facility, minor capital projects will be paid by the district.
Yes,
And
that's what it says.
Okay, and then what about major capital projects?
Page 9.
I just have to explain.
The way I read it is there's a discussion about it, and if the city doesn't want to pay for it, we can go ahead and pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
But with no payback.
Yeah. And again, I'm just going back to, this relates to building infrastructure as well.
It's not our building.
But this is building infrastructure that could require it, not just carpeting or chandeliers.
The kitchen.
Okay. And, you know, Rob, your point is if we're making money, then we make the investment.
Right, and the point, Well, it's.
Well, but before we make an investment, we could call, we can reach out to the city and talk about.
And we can
So,
decide the
so in
number.
2019, if the city asks us to still operate banquets, what's the revenue split? How's that going to work?
We are looking at that now, because we don't have that many banquets booked, because we want to come to you with a recommendation on either to transfer the contract to the city or have the Park District continue to run us, and we're not prepared to make that recommendation yet. So the language allows us,
And we have a third-party operator operating the banquet facility, correct?
yes, we do.
And then the only revenue that we are deriving from banquet is the money we make from the third-party operator.
Correct.
We
So-
also get money for new
Room
rentals.
The room rental.
For rentals, that's right. So my question is that why would we want to invest in a facility where we're receiving, if we decide to operate banquets going forward, where we're getting a fixed amount based upon whatever we're getting paid by the third-party operator?
I think if you go to B, that we would have to create a separate document that would speak to the Park District operating banquets in 19, because you're absolutely right. We would not want to operate banquets under the same terms as this agreement. We would want to make it something that would allow us to recoup some of the money that we've lost. So that's the discussions that we've been having, and we're evaluating now if it's worth, is this something that the Park District should do to recoup the money that we knew we were going to lose going in?
But we don't know what the city's going to do with the property yet, because we don't know if the city's going to continue operating a banquet facility there or make another use, have like the seniors or youth, whatever.
We're obligated
Obligated
with
this year.
banquets through 19, the city, because if we don't, the city will. That's a guarantee.
We are obligated through the end of 18.
Correct.
But
banquets will be at the country club through 19.
At a
So
minimum.
all of these provisions that we've been talking about, we could view as being applicable to 2018.
Which is fine.
Correct. 2019 would be clean
By new
slate.
agreement.
Clean slate, so that'll
Clean
be
slate.
another agreement that the parties would
Correct.
execute. If the city came to the Park District and say, we still want you to administrate the banquets going on at
We
the
would
Park
have to
District,
come
that
up
would be a
with a new
separate
agreement.
agreement.
Right.
Okay, I'm
And
fine
we'll
with
pay
it.
you $100,000.
Whatever it is, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Or 75%.
All right, I understand, that's fine then.
Okay,
That
Page
clarifies it.
we talked about.
Where are you?
We're at page 10 now, the golf maintenance. sheet.
Good.
Okay, so we're not getting the recapture, golf maintenance.
So we should be okay with golf maintenance. If they need it, they're gonna give us somewhere else to build it. Probably up by Public Works or in the nursery area.
We'll figure that out. What? No?
What?
What was that? I'm sorry, Brian?
What did you say?
We'll figure it out if they have to relocate.
And then I said,
Right.
okay,
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
that's what I said. Okay, parking lot. Any issues or questions on
So
the parking lot?
They took out the request for permit parking.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so why do we have, so is
What
the
page are
count,
you on?
I'm on page 10, is the count now 324 parking spaces plus 12?
Plus 12.
Did we count this? We went from 350,
Well, we went from no less than 350, and then we asked for an exact count.
okay, so we have an exact count.
So how's it,
Tell me
go-
it's an exact count.
You can go count.
how's it gonna work if the city moves the senior center to the clubhouse? Obviously, they're gonna have to add additional
Parking.
handicap parking.
Yeah.
And how's that going to work with the handicap requirements that we have with regard to the rec center?
I was wondering the same thing.
As we discussed, the city would be responsible for adding handicap space, but we always have to have 324 now free spaces. So if that's a parking structure, if that's using, and it's a parking structure on the east side,
I'm not talking, the city comes in and they operate a handicap, they operate a senior center, and their building department tells them they need 30 more handicap spots to operate the senior center. We have a certain requirement with our building to have a certain amount of handicap spaces which are existing, they're pre-existing.
Right.
Do they get to use our existing handicap spaces for their are we using the same handicap spaces both for our use and the city's potential uses of the senior center, or is that they're going to have to create additional handicap parking? And if they have to create additional handicap parking, where is that located? Because we don't want to, our handicap parking is staying where it is.
And I
We don't-
can speak to that.
Okay, go ahead.
So the plan, if the city moves, and I know that I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but the discussions that we've been having is that if the city moves the seniors to the country club, that the area that you know now where the cart storage,
what I
or
was
where,
gonna say.
yeah, where the golf cart storage is,
Will be
it's
handicap
currently,
parking.
it's currently hard space, that area would become designated handicap parking.
So that would be in addition to our existing. So I think that we have to have a provision, or maybe it's already in here, that our handicap parking will be located in its current position. And that will be because we have certain requirements to operate a building to have handicap parking, and that's our handicap parking, so we can operate our building, which is the rec center.
And we should say that the additional handicap or disabled parking that they add is on that hard pad that you just described.
Yeah, because I don't want to lose, for some reason, not have enough handicap parking for our building, because all of a sudden, the clubhouse has a different use, and they require more handicap parking over there.
Yeah.
They
Well,
complain
what about also us using the city's disabled parking? You know,
Well,
if we can't use if they can't use ours, how do we keep people up?
Exclusivity of those
Yeah, I
lots?
think we need to have exclusive,
It's-
because we have, what?
If you, right now, what
Right.
the language change, it says that 324 free parking spaces plus 12 disabled parking spaces at all times on Lot 4, and at no time shall the existing number of free non-disabled, all right, so, I'm sorry, I was thinking that we will be able to keep the 12. It doesn't, disabled parking spots, it doesn't speak to them remaining in the same location.
I think we need to have them in the same location, or with our, they can't move them without our consent. They're there for a reason. And we have certain parking requirements, so our building can have an occupancy permit, and one of those requirements is that we have a certain amount of handicap spots located where they're at. And
To make it accessible to enter the rec center.
basically, if the city, I mean, I'm not saying the city would do it, but potentially we can have a non-conforming building if all of a sudden our handicap parking is not located where it's
I
at.
think we get it.
Okay.
Can they use, I think this is more to your point, can they use our spots? In other words, are those spots there to fill up our building? Like, we have to have those just for our clients because of the location closest to that door.
No, I think we have to have those amount of spaces to support our building by code.
I get it. So,
No, we're
but
not
what
talking
if
about-
somebody from the senior center is parked in one of those spaces?
You're not going to stop them.
You're not going to stop
That's-
them, yeah.
Right, okay. That's what I'm
You're
asking.
just gonna have more handicap.
I understand, but I want to make sure we have enough handicap parking at all times for our
We have
building.
enough now.
Yeah.
People complain.
During the day, it's really
Well,
tough.
we meet code,
Yeah,
but we don't have enough.
right,
Yes.
So
right,
now,
right.
if the cart pads get converted, there will be more handicap space.
Maybe
but
if,
there'll be
if
more
there's any change to the
elderly
handicap
people.
parking, we'd have to have the park district consent, which will not be unreasonably withheld, because I think we need to have a say where the handicaps parking is located and really where it's located and how it's oriented.
Well, it says in the event the parking is relocated at any time and for any reason, such relocation shall occur at no cost or expense to the district. The city shall seek out the comments and recommendations of the park district with respect to the relocation of parking before any plans are publicly presented.
That's fine, but I'm more concerned about the handicap parking versus the customer
Well,
parking.
this encompasses everything.
But what if, for example, I'm not saying the city's going to do it, but let's say they move the handicap parking away from our building.
They can't. It has to remain adjacent to Lot 5.
Where does it say that?
It says that
Section B on 11.
shall always be located west of or within the new structure for use and adjacent to Lot 5.
Okay, so it's adjacent. Okay.
But we have to go to that language when we get to it. So Cal's point is that we need to be actively involved, have some approval of relocations.
If they decide they want to relocate our handicap parking.
Right, and we also want to specify that additional handicap parking will be on the cart parking pads as opposed to we don't know where.
But again, neither is exclusive.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they'll have to gross it up. So let's say we have a requirement under code to have 10 handicap spaces, and they're going to have a requirement of 25, so there'll be 35 handicap parking at this location.
And I think we could say, just on your point, that nothing they do will decrease the number of parking, handicapped or otherwise, below the code requirements.
Yeah.
We should probably add that.
Well, I think that goes by without saying.
Right.
I think that goes without saying.
Yeah, it is. I'm just saying to Rob that we should say
You
that.
understand my point, Adam, right?
100%. I just don't know, depending on the layout of the senior center. if
And
it
that-
ever
right, that's,
comes-
you don't know where
I
that.
can't say that we're gonna put them on that pad necessarily,
Yeah.
those additional handicaps. That might be a condition. Obviously, we're not gonna decrease yours, and it says you're always getting your 324.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Okay.
Because one of the complaints we get is the parking lot's long and it's long,
Understood.
and we want to make sure it's
So-
easier possible for.
So, do we
But
need
we'll
to?
have the
let's
same
move
concern if we
on.
go
I'm
with
trying
senior.
to-
You're saying you
They're
don't have
having a
enough.
dialogue.
Okay,
Okay,
boys, gentlemen,
we're moving forward.
Okay.
we're moving on. We're going to page 12.
No, we're still on page 11, because reading B, ever intends to relocate or build the deck, the hated deck, to be used on a park, or will be constructed or open on lot 4. The parking space available to use by the district and its patrons shall always be located west of, and then it says, or within the new structure. And I know that we've talked repeatedly about where, I'm confused as to what this is getting to.
This is here. If and when the city sells this to a hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and it loses spaces on the easterly half of lot 4. On a long night. We will still have, here,
This past map.
here, why don't you get one? Why don't you pass that to?
That's a beautiful shed there. That's a beautiful shed there.
So what we had talked about was, if the city builds something on the portion of lot 4 that's buildable, and it encroaches onto some of our spaces, that they will build a deck somewhere on the eastern half of lot 4 that we will have access to, that will still give this lot the same number of spaces. What they agreed, what we had talked about, what you and I talked about, was that they wouldn't build it anywhere near the pad so as not to block the views from the parking lot or nature preserve, and the limit in size and structure.
Here, this says that the parking will be located within the new structure.
Well, we might have to have some indoor spaces. But we will always have 312,
Okay.
24.
324
Any multi-parking
spaces.
located over the west half of lot 4. Any multi-level parking deck or structure located over the west half, which is this, of lot 4, is no higher than 1 story above grade.
I don't remember, I thought we were always keeping it east because of the sight lines.
Yes.
Where are you seeing that?
Well, I'm reading right here in B,
Yeah, I was confused by west as well.
No, we
it's the
did.
west half of lot 4, which would put it right in front of what we would view as a view corridor.
I think it's got to be changed to west half of lot, west half,
West half of easterly half,
yes,
right?
yes.
Kind of where the barn, like in that area.
The west half, it will not be on the westerly half of lot 4.
Correct.
But let's make it simpler. The language should read that any parking structure will not be on the westerly half of lot 4 on exhibit, whatever exhibit we want to attach this picture as.
Yeah, and that actually might be even a little bit more helpful because it is a little bit closer to the rec center than if it was all the way on the east
Okay.
part of the easterly half.
Okay,
All right,
page 12.
page 12.
I'm reading this in C, no, yeah. It says, will work cooperative any proposals submitted to each party if the parking or driveway areas located west of the current 2018 westerlymost access point are proposed to be removed. So that's, this is the access point.
Yes.
Parking or driveway areas located west.
So we're supposed to work cooperatively on any proposals
Oh.
to relocate that access. I'm not quite sure what this is trying to tell us.
I think they're saying since they are gonna build up the country club, they may, or we may, want to change that entrance, and we have to work cooperatively to do that. Am I understanding that? That's this, right?
But it also talks about moving parking, not just the, and again, the driveway areas, again, this is what gets people to drop off. I mean, does it give approval rights, or we just work cooperatively? Cooperatively, any proposals made each party if the parking or driveway areas located west of the current westerlymost access point are proposed to be removed, redesigned, or relocated.
So that's, they're saying we want to do it here. But why, I mean, we wouldn't be in favor of doing that.
That's sort of my point.
Yeah.
Oh, we might not have a choice, boys.
But why would they want to move that? I mean, this would, it looks like that entrance would lead right to the cart path area if that's where they would choose to put their parking.
I have no idea why they want to remove that. Unless the traffic study said to do it, and it's a safety issue.
Yeah, I think it's language to protect because they don't know what's gonna happen in the event that they do. We are working cooperatively with them for whatever it may be.
But, and again, all I'm saying is this affects the handicap parking and driveway access to the rec center.
Because they're talking about possibly moving it west of where it is. That would put it right in the heart of our handicap park.
But regardless, we would still, if they have to provide us with the required handicap parking for that building, no matter what they do. That is ADA law.
Well, and it's also on subsection
D,
D on
yeah.
page 12, which covers what
Yeah.
you were talking
Yeah,
about.
but it doesn't say the location.
Oh, isn't
Right.
location really done by statute?
No, I don't know.
You
I
can't
don't know
have
the answer.
handicap spaces 200 yards
Right.
away.
I don't know the answer.
There
Yeah.
is language that specifically states the proximity of where the handicap spots are in relation to where
The
you are trying to
activity.
get the handicap person to.
Well, I'm just wondering if we need more than just work cooperatively, if there's anything that would affect our driveway access and our access points.
Why don't we throw in, our favorite language?
Well,
Which cooperation will not be unreasonably withheld.
The-
Come on, I use that every day now.
Well, we can do that because when it comes down to it, it's their property, and so somebody's gonna have to make the final decision. And we're not gonna let them tell us where to do anything on the nature preserve after we buy it. And so telling them what they have or can or can't do on lot 4, which would be their property, might
Then-
not be so well received.
Then.
But I can certainly
We need some
make sure the
language, Rob, that
cooperation-
talks about that any changes cannot adversely affect the functionality, access, and the string of words that go with it.
And it will not be unreasonably withheld.
Okay.
Up your alley, man.
That's my
I have a
guy,
question.
is the lead trombone player.
I have a question in paragraph F, since we're on
Okay.
the same page. So how do we share, what is the sharing of expenses if there's a parking deck? how does that?
So
get addressed?
actually, yes. We're not gonna have we're not gonna have any share of that.
Well, we won't share the construction, but would the costs, if we're able to use the parking deck, the city would want us to pay, I am sure, some of the expenses, but those expenses may be higher than freestanding lot.
For maintenance?
Did you nod your head yes?
Or we put language in here that excludes the parking deck.
Fine.
Because we talked about the main parking lot and the need to take care of that.
That's fine, I'm
Put it
done.
in.
Okay.
13. Excellent. 14.
Wait a minute.
Oh, you hesitated.
Yeah, I have a problem with paragraph D on page 13.
So do I.
Yeah?
My point is, I don't like the language, be paid for the party which caused the need for such relocation. This is relocating, an access point.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that mean, need? We all need to have an access point, we all need it. I mean,
The change, who needs the change?
we all can
Maybe
use
it
the need
should
to change.
be
Yeah.
The request or whoever wants to do it should foot the bill for it.
Whoever changes the access point should pay for it.
Believe that the language that was discussed led to, in the event that the property changes and that there is an additional use, so the city finds someone to build whatever it is, that may precipitate, I'm thinking, it may precipitate the need to change access. And there was also language about the traffic light,
Yeah, that's what I also want to talk about.
because I think that comes up, that volume may dictate certain
Hopefully.
requirements for access and traffic, or
That goes to who needs it.
I would
That
agree with you.
That would be the city.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, not
because right-
necessarily. They could say, we need it because our cars go in there.
But the relocation was caused by something the city needs.
Then it should say that. It should say
does.
who's caused
Just
the
caused the
need.
need for relocation.
I just say caused the relocation. Because they're going to have a relocation, it's going to be, there's going to be a relocation. So whatever the relocation is should be paid by a third party. We're okay with the existing
there.
access.
Yeah.
Traffic controls is at the
In the
end.
event that access
Share.
points are relocated,
It's not, oh, no.
The party
the cost
relocating,
shall be paid for by the party,
relocating.
Satin Doll, I believe.
which,
No, it wouldn't be part of relocated, because that could be, but there is a need, why is it being relocated? Because they build a hotel.
right, it caused
that's
the
Rob's
need for the
point about the need.
relocation.
All right, fine.
Or
I
a
mean,
senior center.
I know everyone will be acting reasonably and everyone, so.
I think what you're asking is for Rob to take a look at the language and
Yeah,
find a
but I
better
don't
way of
think this
phrasing
can
it.
be interpreted in
Yeah.
such a way as that we would get a bill for any.
We don't want a bill.
Yeah, we don't
Right.
want to know. Okay.
In fact, no, we also don't want a bill for maintenance of a traffic light at the end of this. Isn't that just a
Right.
basic city expense?
Yep. Next. Just try to sneak one in. All right, page 14.
So we want to take out,
Going to be shared by the parties?
in the event such access points require installation of additional traffic control, such control shall be constructed and installed at no cost or expense to the district, however, maintenance of so,
So put the word "and maintain" back in there. I'm not gonna maintain their traffic lights. I won't be here.
That's what we pay taxes to the city for.
okay.
We've heard that often.
Is there any third party or is any, I don't know the answer to this question, but is there any party other than the city of Highland Park who pays for the maintenance of traffic control systems?
IDOT.
Traffic lights? IDOT?
If it's an IDOT road.
Well, and you can have a contract that requires, if a shopping center requires the installation of a traffic control device, there can be a contract between
Right.
IDOT, who would install it, and the owner of the development, that they would pay a certain portion of the expense of the traffic light.
Well, I think that goes to the need, because there only would be a traffic control light there is if there's a change in use in Lot 4, and so therefore whoever's changing the use in Lot 4 should pay for
Or
Tra-
they might decide because of Walters Field that you need a traffic light.
They may want, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, next page.
Page 14.
So we're getting parking and cross-access licenses now?
Say what?
Why not an easement?
Hmm.
Doesn't an easement have greater rights of real estate?
I would think. What number are we?
And F on page 14.
So Representative
I don't
Brown.
see it. Oh, there, Tom.
Is this agreement being recorded?
Apparently now,
Yeah.
this contemplates it. So liability, we got that, use.
Yeah, why'd they put license instead of easement?
I don't know. And I haven't talked to Mr. Elrod about why the city did what they did.
Well, let's ask Mr. Elrod.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm gonna change it back and and we'll piss about it for a while.
In paragraph 12.
We'll discuss it.
In paragraph 12, I mean, does anybody have a problem with the word dedicates limitation on use of lot 4,000? Dedicates more than 1,000 square feet to such use?
Yeah, but why is it an issue?
I'm just asking if that's okay.
Yeah, we talked about that in the size of the fitness floor.
But the
Yep.
word dedicates is okay.
Yeah,
All right, fine.
Fine.
we talked about that.
All right.
15.
Number 13 is my constant issue about
Taxes.
taxes. I guess that's okay.
15. 16. 17. 18.
Let me just go back to taxes for a second. Suppose the intent here is while there are no real estate taxes on municipal public facilities now, 50 years from now, the state, in its infinite wisdom, I suppose, could impose real estate special taxes or special assessments against the property.
All I'm saying is I am not looking for any text that gives implicit or absolute consent to it if it's imposed by the state. I don't want the state to say the city can tax the park district. Let's put it in those terms. We're not consenting to anything. We want to make it very clear. If the state imposes a tax, they're right. There's nothing we can do about it.
All right. Understood. Where are you now?
Conflict of laws doesn't apply.
Have we had any discussion after the closing? Are we gonna consolidate these lots? Or what are we gonna do? Keep them separate?
Let's keep going in this document right now.
Yeah, I thought we were done. Hold on.
Is that a bad question?
What page are we on,
It may
16?
not be a bad question, but I don't know the answer.
What page are you on, Ronnie?
I was just looking at the title.
I don't know if I have any issues until we get to 18.
18.
Wait, I gotta get the right.
18 has flow caps include parallel provisions for insurance, PDHP using pro shop and sharing common areas.
Because we want to be able to make sure that Padermo will ensure our uses of the property. And I think the city wants to be sure that we are ensuring our whatever it is that we use, that we have, that we're
It's
ensuring
gotta
our.
be properly
any-
insured.
Huh? Exactly. That's
That's it.
the only point.
They'll probably require a certificate of insurance, naming them as additional insured for the use of the pro shop.
Fine.
That's fine.
And probably the shed as well, I believe.
That's fine.
That's fair. That's fair. I would ask for the
Now-
same thing.
On page 14, I have the assignment, I have no clue why they included the short-term use of the rec center.
Where are you looking? What paragraph?
The bottom of the page, page 15.
15?
14.
Oh, why is the rec center in here at all?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
Take it out.
Take it out. You're right.
That was a good catch. I didn't catch that.
no, Barney caught it.
Oh, good catch.
Okay, now, we'll go back to page 18.
Page 18, master agreement, same question.
Yeah.
Same question, same answer.
Yeah.
Page 19, signature pages. Terry?
I don't know if you spell Brian Kaplan like that.
Did Brian give your middle initial in there?
Brian J. Kaplan.
All right.
What's the next step?
The next step is for Rob to call Mr. Elrod tomorrow.
What I think I'm going to do is do a version that everything that's currently colored, that's agreed to, we'll make it clean. And we'll do a red line that only incorporates the changes that we've talked about tonight. Because everything else has been agreed to by the city, because it's in blue, and we're accepting it, so it's acceptable. And that will get it down in colors, at least to just the comments that have taken place this evening, so that the city can, the conversations that go on then can be limited to those items.
Amen.
Okay.
Anything else? We've gone through the agreements.
We've gone through the agreements. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Wait.
We have, what else is on the agenda?
That's it.
Open to the public to address. Oh, that's already
No,
did.
we already did that.
Do we have closed session tonight? No.
We have no closed session tonight.
Yes.
I move to
Amen,
adjourn.
number 2.
Okay, now I'll try this again. May I have a motion to
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Any objection? So the meeting adjourned at 9:05.
Aye.
Nice thing.
I'll look at this title. I can look at the title. Okay.
It's 20
That's
minutes.
okay.